Well, I reject ideology. Again, I'm a conservative. That's a philosophy. Ideology is where an individual tries to fit the world to their mind, and we've seen the disastrous consequences of that throughout the 20th century and even into today. What you want is a philosophical view where you fit your mind to the world and you apply your principles to the challenges we face. You look to history for precedents and guides, and you try to conserve and improve, which, as Burke told us, is the disposition of the statesman. Ideology tends to make things very chaotic because when the ideologue's perverse vision meets the reality of people's cherished ways of life, it leads to much tumult and much confusion and much suffering. And so what we want to do is go back to a time where we understand human nature, we understand history, we understand reason, we understand what people really want to do, and we help empower the American people to do it by getting a lot of this government regulation off their back, reducing taxation, and in short, just looking at ways that people can help themselves. And I think that that's what people are looking for in the 21st century, where everything that they're seeing around them except government is leading them to have more control over their own lives.
Well, see, that's the interesting part, because I see a lot of, I talk to a lot of people, obviously, on the grassroots level, and I talk to a lot of people that are doing things such as yourself, that are in the grind, they're, they see everything as it's happening legislatively, in the media, all that kind of stuff. And they do see different elements that are inhibiting our ability to move forward in life, whether it's politically or otherwise. And when you speak to people, they say, I don't care what they're doing or what they feel, how they feel. The politicians, let's say in this case, were sent to do something in Washington, in Albany, in wherever all the legislative processes happen. We're not seeing that today because it's all coming to a standstill when the ideologies start to clash. Do you feel that Obama is an ideologue, and he's not leading the country the way he could be, or he's not driven by this kind of mentality?
Well, he's clearly an ideologue. He comes from the left. He comes out of the cesspool, ideologically, of Rousseau. Again, the president seems to think he knows better than you. He's claimed he's going to recreate the foundations of the American economy. These are things that conservatives and people who understand that the true foundations of America's economy are put in there by the American people, that our prosperity is from the private sector, not the public sector, reject. The president embraces these things. I think that's why we're continuing to see chaos. For example, we need look no further than energy prices. And the president's running around trying to blame speculators and everything else, when the reality is the president does not want to see America produce maximum production of our own energy resources to have a responsible transition into a green energy future through the free market. So the ideologue is the one who is speculating and the one who's causing the problems. That'd be the president and the Democrats in the Senate.
Now, to that point, I had Dr. Soul on my show on this past Thursday. Did a rare interview. It's great as always. I want to thank them again for coming on and organizing the interview. But we spoke about speculators, and he basically said to speculate something, you're putting out $120 now to think that's going to be $125 tomorrow. So you're really putting your ass on the line. There's something else there. The reason that whenever a politician seems to demonize one certain thing or really starts hammering on one thing and nothing else, they're deflecting, in my personal opinion, and we've seen that for years, obviously. That's just what a lot of politicians do. But there's something there that they don't want people to know, and those fringe elements are keeping him from being able to allow Americans to drill up the coast of the Gulf instead of Brazil, instead of us giving $2 billion to Petrobras and other George Soros-funded business apparatuses, corporate apparatuses. We could be doing it ourselves. Look at everything we have in California and all our other reserves. So there's something there that obviously philosophically that he doesn't agree to let us do what we need to do. Which freedoms do you feel are most at risk today? Is it freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, private property?
Well, I think everything that the big government wants you to surrender to it in exchange for ephemeral state-sponsored economic security, which we know doesn't exist. I think that it's really the American people who spoke in 2010 said they wanted to get away from that. So I think that what's at risk now is really the big government model of the welfare state, not the safety net, but the welfare state, which encourages people who can help themselves to instead rely upon government to help them when that is not necessary. So I think that we should look at this instead of being so worried about the American public in the sense of what's going to happen to them, I think the American public are very well aware of that. I think they spoke very loudly and clearly in 2010. And I think that they're the ones who got it right. So I'm very optimistic about the future of the country in the long run, because the strength remains the American people. And again, anybody who denies that can go look at the 2010 election results, where they decided that they wanted to see government put on a fiscally sustainable path. They understand that what's been done over the past couple of years, and the Democratic majority and Democratic president has been completely reckless and irresponsible. And so I take great comfort in the fact that the American people understand what's happening and want to do something about it.
Yeah, it's certainly different. The dynamic of politics has really changed. The Tea Party's changed a lot of things like that. People such as yourself have more of a platform now. You're being heard. The sanity that you bring out in every interview that you do, and I look for when you do interviews with Fox, Yahoo Finance, all these different entities that you bring your knowledge to. There's always something of value there that I listen to. That's why I love having you on the show, because you do speak from a more sane standpoint, and that's very important in today's world. Obviously, it's important in any day's world, but especially now when we're really staring at the precipice of a different future for America than we've seen, and that we're comfortable with. The debt ceiling debate is very hotly contested. The administration is utilizing the mode of crisis to govern, as they always are, as people in power seem to do a lot of times throughout history. This is their means to push Congress to vote, and to vote immediately on raising the debt ceiling without any conditions. Will the sky fall, as they're making it seem, as Tim Geithner and Obama and all the others are making it seem, if Congress does not allow the government to continue to borrow and spend? And what is your stance on that ceiling?
Well, I think that they should have been much more concerned about this when over the past 2 years they were racking up massive deficits and debt and massive expenditures of taxpayers' money. Now that they've spent the money, now they all of a sudden are claiming that people have to pay more taxes, that the debt ceiling has to be raised, that it's the end of the world. What they're really trying to do is cement in place the last 2 years of massive government expenditures. And I don't think that that's going to be permitted. That's non-sustainable. It's not what the American people want. It was what was rejected at the polls in 2010. So again, you see the president, you see Mr. Geithner, his ideologues, already having spent the money, now trying to keep it in place, and now demanding more money from productive Americans, which, as we know, that when that happens, you're going to see the economy slow down further. You're going to see prices start to go up. You're going to see jobs even more scarce than they are now. But that's not what they're particularly concerned about, because they believe that the government can fix everything. And in the end, the government will try to fix everything until it's broken.